question. Now, when I talk to parents in the Sunday workshops, one of the parent workshops, I ask the parents ki, we're talking of employability of graduates. Forget the students who studied in state board schools or smaller towns and other places. Let's look at students who studied in top tier international schools in metro cities like Hyderabad, Delhi, and so on. I mean, top 6, top 8 cities of the country. Let's consider those students, right? Now, even amongst those students, if you ask them to write a story or you ask them to talk about something in popular culture, they'll probably write it well. You give them a Harvard Business Review article or you give something technical in nature, today students are struggling. And you guys are all on the WhatsApp groups. And when I ask people to write an analysis, let alone the ability to write an analysis, people are not even understanding what is being asked. The expectation is not understood. So I tell this to parents and I say, how do you want to see your kids grow up? Hindustan Times survey in 2017 tells you that more than 80% of the BTech graduates are unemployable. More than 90% of the MBA graduates are unemployable. And I'm sure their parents were like you only when their kids were in school. They didn't care. There's somebody talking like this. Okay, he'll talk, bolke, they didn't care. So do you want to be one of those parents or do you want to make a change today? Then I tell the parents, ki, look, if your kids have to have that ability, the question is in your house. I mean, when I talk to Telugu parents, I ask, ki, in your house, what do you watch? Do you watch a good panel discussion on NDTV or CNN or something, or do you watch Jabardast comedy program? I say in your house, when you're watching that Jabardast with vulgar comedy, what do you expect your child to grow up into? When you don't have a taste for content, where do you think your kid is going to get a taste for content? I said, when I was a kid growing up at home, we had 4 business papers coming home, Mint, Financial Chronicle, and so on. I never bothered to read them, but I was seeing them every day. So when I went to college, I finally started reading Harvard Business Review, Economist, and so on. And as an undergrad, when I start reading them, I may or may not choose a business path, but it gives me clarity of thinking. Because the editorial coverage in a business paper is of very different quality compared to editorial coverage in a normal newspaper. Even Hindu wouldn't match up to the editorial quality of this business dailies because their audience base is different. Now I tell this to parents. Did I sell Deep Thought anywhere? I sold Deep Thought. Did I talk about Deep Thought?
No.
I didn't. And are they listening to me all through?
They may or may not be listening.
Well, they usually do. I have my tools.
Like, yeah, most of them would have listened to it.
If they listen to me for first 2 minutes, they'll listen to me. The key challenge is, will they listen to me for first 2 minutes or not?
Yeah, they would have listened.
And you know what I do? I ask you, how many jobless BTech graduate neighbors do you have? Then they laugh. Like, this is my point, you listen to me. And then I build on it. How many jobless BTech graduate neighbors do you have? And I build my argument around that. So what is the point I'm trying to make here? If I were to say that, you know, our organization does this, does that, blah, 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 sales pitch. Rather, what are you trying to go and communicate? Why are they listening to me? Or rather, ulta, one school calls me for its inauguration and says, we want you to talk. So it's like somebody calls you so you can go and talk to your target audience. Or even worse, somebody calls and says, we want a workshop, we'll pay you this much per hour, you come and do a workshop. You get paid to give your advertisement. So what is happening here? Why are you getting the reception from the audience? What is the core principle here? Anyone? Why are the audience?
To ask them what they are.
Yeah, go ahead.
ask them what they are interested in, like how many BTech graduates do you know who don't work? So this is
Are they interested in that?
when they would to
They are
answer the question, like
They're
try
not
to engage
interested
with
in that.
them through it.
That's not something they're interested in. They'll probably be interested in Shah Rukh or something, but they're
yeah,
attention. Why?
they are paying attention because they don't want their kids to end up as unemployable BTech graduates.
Yeah, Shairi wants it to say something. Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was going to say the same thing that they don't want their own children to be unemployable. So this, what you are saying is, it's attractive to them because they want their children to do something. But what makes it, sorry, what
Good,
makes
good, good, good.
yeah, what makes it more like why they are still listening to you is because you're not, like you said, you're not directly. So even though you're like pitching deep thought to them, you're not directly selling deep thought, right? You are sort of in in covertly putting it through as to what deep thought stands for and what you are probably going to help them do without telling them overtly ki, okay, this is how much money is going that is required for you to pay me for me to give your child a job. So, and that is something which is there, which the panel also talks about in the video, about not linking thought leadership content with sales.
Because if people identify you as a go-to person, you need not sell. They'll come to you. Or rather, I do this talking, I close my Zoom call. Then a salesperson of Deep Thought calls up that parent and says, I'm calling from Deep Thought. They go, tell me. Tell me. That's enough for the salesperson. You get it? They don't get who are you. This is a program made by Deep Thought, and they're doing this. If you're interested, I'll give you a free class. You come and you attend. Blah blah blah. So in the thought leadership, you don't bring sales at all. You just try to connect with the audience, right? Now, but a fundamental principle which I'd like to state here is your audience listen because they care. Audience do not listen because they believe. They listen if they care. This is from the book Made to Stick. If anyone finds this topic interesting, read the book called Made to Stick. It's a wonderful book which talks of how you can engage your audiences really well and how you can communicate in a way that people remember what you communicate. How do you communicate in a way that people remember what you communicate? And that to me is gold. That ability to me is gold, right? So you use words with stick. You use words with stick in the mind, right? You see, in my teaching also, I try to communicate in a way that the kids would remember what is taught in the class. So, for example, I mean, in that book, he uses this example and he says that if you tell people that smoking is bad for your health, people may believe that smoking is bad for their health, but people do not stop. But if people care for what you're showing, then people stop. So a lot of addictions work that way, right? You believe that that's bad for you, but you still don't stop. But when you care, you do. So I think thought leadership is about making your audience care. That definitely is one end goal of thought leadership. But let us first define what is thought leadership. Who's a thought leader? A thought leader is a go-to person. A thought leader is a go-to person. Now, I hope everybody's paying attention because often what happens is we miss the core and pick residue details. I hope you all read that Barriers to Learning Wala document. We tend to listen only to those which we agree. That is why there's a problem of selective attention. And tomorrow morning I'm writing an article on learnability. What I notice is with most of the college students, if I talk for 1 hour, they'll be able to tell me 5 minutes ka content at the end of 1 hour. And if someone says no, I will conduct an exam and prove. That's what I challenge people. I put an assessment. Because my mind map is very clear in my mind. When I talk for 1 hour, what am I talking? Why am I talking? Or when I listen to any video also, let's say Daniel Goleman or something, I listen. I make a mind map of whatever the person speaks. So it is very important that we pay attention wherever we listen, be it college or YouTube or anywhere, that we listen to things, especially to the things which we don't believe in. Because if you already know it, what's the point of listening to it? So anyway, they probably it would serve reinforcement, but yeah. Now, a thought leader is a go-to person. There's a definition, right? A thought leader is a go-to person. For example, right now the world economy is down. India doesn't know what to do. India goes to Raghuram Rajan and asks, boss, tell me what to do. Or India goes to Kaushik Basu and says, tell me what to do. Unfortunately, India does not go to Amartya Sen and ask what to do. Probably 6 years back, India did, but today God knows why, but I don't know. Somehow, some things have remain mysteries. So there are some people who are thought leaders. So who's a thought leader? A go-to person. Now, why is Raghuram Rajan a go-to person? Because in 2008, when the economy was collapsing, he predicted it accurately. So people believe that he might actually predict it accurately. Now, if you want to change the world, thought leadership becomes necessary. If you believe that there's one thing in the world which can be better, like if you believe that you do not, I mean, there's so many women on the call. If you believe that patriarchy should not be the norm, you want something better of gender neutral age, thought leadership becomes necessary. That you become a thought leader and that your opinion matters and that people listen to your opinion and people care about your opinion and people change their belief systems and more importantly, their actions. That people change their belief systems and more importantly, their actions. So if someone says, I don't want to be a thought leader, I don't care about the world, then probably this workshop is not meant for you. But if someone says, no, there are things about the world which I wish to change. There are people which I wish to change. Forget the world. Let's say in your own home, they say charity begins at home, right? Forget about home. You want to change yourself. Thought leadership starts there, right? So a thought leader is a go-to person. Now, a thought leader shares opinion. A thought leader gives out a lot of opinion. But the difference between a thought leader's opinion and a normal person's opinion is people care about a thought leader's opinion. Now, what would thought leadership be? Thought leadership is an exercise where you make your audience care about your opinion. So if I say that I'm a person X, I want to be a thought leader or I want to do thought leadership. It's like I want to do friendship. I want to do entrepreneurship. I want to do dictatorship. So I can engage in dictatorship. I can engage in friendship. I can engage in entrepreneurship. Likewise, I can also engage in thought leadership. So how do I engage in thought leadership? By making sure my opinion matters. People care about my opinion. Now, whatever Sonia and Shairi spoke are all tools to land into thought leadership. But what becomes more fundamental is to understand what is thought leadership. So you are engaging in thought leadership if you are in the process of making your audience care about your opinion. Right? Now, you're a thought leader if you're not confined by your domain. If you're confined by your domain, if I'm confined by my domain, I'm going to talk only physics or I'm going to talk only mathematics or I'm going to talk only entrepreneurship. Now, when I talk to mothers, I talk to them about cooking, I talk to them about their kitchen, I talk to them about movies. Whatever point I wish to convey, let's say I was talking about integration. I say you're trying to fry a potato. Can you fry a big potato? What do? You cut it into little pieces and fry it, right? So if your time interval is very big, you can't do speed in physics. So we cut our time interval into little pieces. Like how you cut your potato into little pieces. So differentiation is nothing but you cut your time interval into little pieces. This is what it is. They're like, oh, interesting. So they're like, oh, is this what physics is about? Yeah, exactly. There are more details. If you do physics, you'll learn the details, but this is what it is. Or Raghuram Rajan is a thought leader. What does Raghuram Rajan tell you? Talks about inflation. He says you have 100 rupees today. With 100 rupees, you can buy 10 dosas. And you decide not to buy 10 dosas. You decide to put that 100 rupees in a bank. Your 100 rupees become 200 rupees at the end of 10 years. Your 100 rupees become 200 rupees at the end of 10 years. Initially, you could have bought 10 dosas for 10 rupees. Initially, you could have bought 10 dosas for 10 rupees. But you decided that you'll not spend that 100 rupees. You'll put it in a bank. So that becomes 200 rupees. But after 10 years, your dosa ka cost is 25 rupees. So you got only 8 dosas. You were getting 10 dosas earlier in 2010. In 2020, you're getting 8 dosas. So your 10 masala dosas became 8 dosas. Your 10 dosas became 8 dosas. So who ate away your dosa?
Inflation.
Not inflation. The imbalance between inflation and interest. Inflation is Chintu and interest is Pintu. So if Chintu grows faster than Pintu, there's a problem. If Pintu grows faster than Chintu, there's no problem. So interest, your bank is growing. The money in your bank is growing. The money in your bank is growing. Your price of your dosa is growing. But if your dosa price is going, I mean, if you get Achhe Din, like how we have Achhe Din right now, you get Achhe Din and the prices are increasing very fast and your banks are increasing very slow, then that's a problem. But if your prices go very slow and your interest grows very fast, then you're fine. Your money is beating the prices. So if Raghuram Rajan talks like this, do you have to be an economist to understand this lecture? That is thought leadership. You go beyond your domain to see something universal. When you see something universal, everybody cares about it. If it is not universal, only your domain people care about it, and that too, they pretend to care about it. How many economists like economics? How many physicists like physics? How many doctors like medicine? There's so many people who do it, not because they enjoy it, but because they see it as a profession. Probably you'll have 10% people who do it because they really are excited about it. And these are the ones who change the discipline, the truly passionate ones. So even in your domain, you want to engage people, you probably need thought leadership to engage people within your domain itself. Because when there's universal appeal, people connect. Now think about it. Why do people connect to movies and why people don't connect to research journals?
Because they can relate themselves to movies.
So that is why, you know, Science Session ka one of the earliest teasers, we would go into schools and we tell kids, we challenge your Salman Khan, Shah Rukh Khan, MS Dhoni and all these people that will entertain you guys better, but with science. Physics of Rajnikant, Sherlock Holmes in a chemistry lab, evolutionary love guru and so on. So we would go to kids and we would say, there are two Rajnikants. One Rajnikant is running away from the other Rajnikant. And the graph of Rajnikant's position with time is given to you. Find the maximum separation between one Rajnikant and the other Rajnikant. So the kids always learned that the graph of position and time has to be like this. We said position and time is like this for normal human beings, but not for Rajnikant because Rajnikant can split into two. So for a moment, kids forget that they're in a physics class. Or you guys can watch one of the sessions which I gave in Ramakrishna Math last year. I asked them, why do you think I'm here? They said, you're here to tell us stories. I said, I don't know any stories. They said, you're here to, teach us science. I said, I don't like teaching science. They gave me different answers. I said, I'm here to confuse you all. One of the kids was like, I was like, yeah, stop gaping. What you heard is actually right. I'm here to confuse you. Then the kids are like, what the hell is he talking? He's here to confuse us. I said, I believe, I said, there are some psychologists who say that when you're confused, you think more. So I believe that, I can make you think by confusing you. Then they give me a look. And I'm like, you know what? It turns out that there was one person who was confused. You know him, right? Apple fell on his head. We call him Newton. Apple fell on his head and he found something. Then there's one other person, his tongue is sticking out. That guy, turns out he was more confused than Newton. And because he was more confused than Newton, it turns out that if you're like Rajnikant and if you're going at speed of light, Newton's theory will no longer work, but Einstein's theory will work because this fellow was more confused than the other fellow. So are you willing to get more confused like Einstein so that you come up with better theories for the world? Now, when I tell this, do children feel that they're in for a physics class? No, I've not made anything interesting there. I tried to make a universal appeal. When I say, hey, when you're confused, you'll think better. And people who are confused were able to understand the world. They're perplexed. Like, what is he talking? This doesn't seem real, but this seems interesting. So I want to know it. So then people are no longer worried about, is it useful for me or is it not useful for me? People are fascinated by what you're saying. Right? So for me, thought leadership is about that. When I go and address people on different platforms, I would not want to get technical, but I probably speak something more technical than any of the other fellow speakers. I cover more technical content than the others. But if you notice, the last 10-20 minutes, I go so fast. That if someone is coming and listening to me, they're like, "ये क्या इतना राजधानी की तरह भाग रहा है?" But the audience is with me. The audience is with me because they're able to comprehend all of what I'm saying. But in the beginning, what you do is you own your audience with universal appeal. So again, I go back to my definition because for me, definitions and fundamentals are very important. I go back to my definition. Who's a thought leader? A thought leader is a go-to person. Now, why do we go to thought leaders? Because thought leaders have solutions to most of our problems. Why do thought leaders have solutions to most of our problems? Because thought leaders do not think in a narrow band. Thought leaders are able to see profound structures out of whatever they're thinking. To give you one example of a thought leader, I can probably quote Chanakya. Right. Now, Chanakya saw a little boy eat porridge from the center of the bowl. The bowl was very hot and the boy ate porridge from the center of the bowl. Then Chanakya saw somebody tell the kid ki, don't eat porridge from the center of the bowl, eat it from the edges. Chanakya looks at it and tells people ki, do not conquer a kingdom from the center, conquer it from the edges. So he's able to transfer that knowledge from one situation to another situation. So here what matters is transferability of knowledge. Transferability of knowledge. Right? So when would knowledge be transferable? Knowledge is transferable when you see a structure. For example, when I say what is thought leadership? Thought leadership is like friendship. Thought leadership is like entrepreneurship. Thought leadership is like dictatorship. I'm trying to bring in a structure. What is dictatorship? It's a quality. I mean, so you are exhibiting dictatorship. The relationship between you and somebody is friendship, right? So that way you're exhibiting something. The relationship between you and your audience is thought leadership. So how do you engage in thought leadership? So you see, I've used a structure to convey something. You engage in thought leadership. How do you engage in thought leadership? You create opinion which audience care for. Then you ask yourself a question, what are the tools available to me so I can engage in thought leadership? Right? So at Deep Thought, what we try to do is there's so much of insights which are gathered. A lot of insights are gathered within all the sessions because we do deep thought, right? So now the question is, how do you package it in a way? How do you package it in a way that your audiences can relate to it? Like, there are a lot of students who enjoy learning who run a WhatsApp group. So I go there and I ask, what if Newton's second law changes? Then how will F equal to ma change? Then few students, there was one student who kept coming back to the WhatsApp group and kept asking her, I'm not getting sleep. Can you please answer this question? I've been trying to think of it in so many different ways. I can't find an answer. Can you please tell me? So you're able to make your audience care for it, right? So, or let's say I was talking about problem solving. Then I say that, you're a cop and there are two people, Veerappan and Murugappan. But the bad news is it is difficult to find Veerappan. But the good news is you can find Murugappan. And the good news is that Veerappan and Murugappan are good friends. So what will you do? So then kids say, okay, we'll find Murugappan, interrogate him and take help from him to catch Veerappan. I said, that's exactly what we do in physics as well. We do problem reduction. So one problem is like Veerappan, difficult to solve. Another problem is like Murugappan. But the good news is the Murugappan problem can be helpful in solving Veerappan problem. So if you know that there's a Veerappan problem, what do? There's another Murugappan problem, find it. Now when you go and narrate this, now the idea is not to make things interesting. The idea is to convey a certain structure. Now, the difference between thought leadership and entertainment. You're saying you need to make your audience care. Through entertainment also you can make audience care. Now when I say storytelling, a lot of people might think of it as entertainment. You might be giving me entertaining content. Now it's not edutainment as well. It is thought leadership. What is thought leadership? Thought leadership is empowering your audience. The reason why parents give me a lot of attention is because they're empowered parents after completing a session with me. You get it? They get a perspective of how they want to look at education. All the while, did they think about which newspaper they're getting at home? They said, I can't read Hindu. I can't read Hindu, so I will not order Hindu. I said, you can't read Hindu, but you realize there's somebody in your house who's supposed to read Hindu. Like, yeah, I didn't think about this. So I've got their attention there. I've empowered them to think of few things which they otherwise didn't think. So true thought leadership is empowerment. And I don't know if you guys noticed it in that video. They say, if your audience are able to use your content, your audience will keep coming back. That's when your audience will say, hey, why did it stop? I want more. Like, I'll tell you, last year I was running something called Reading Club on WhatsApp. Okay. So the ones who are interested, I said I will do it only with 10 people. I said the ones who are interested, I will send you one article every day, and you're supposed to send me a mind map of what you understood from the article. And I'll give you one small task. I'll give you a task which you're supposed to do based on the article. The task is usually a situation, a problem, a dilemma or a situation which you'll resolve by using the wisdom of the article. You read an article, you use the wisdom of the article to resolve a problem. I give you an article and I give you a problem to solve. I did this like for 4 weeks. Then I got for 4 days or 5 days, then I got caught up. Deep thought me a few things were problematic and I got caught up with internal problems and I didn't have time to go find an article or create a task. I stopped. Then these guys like, why did you stop? It was so useful. So then you know that you were really creating value for your audience. Why? They were not just entertained, but they were finding it useful to improve their reading style. But some of them continue doing it on their own without me having to go and give them a task every day. Or we run 4 WhatsApp groups for college students called Humble Learners, Winning Language Barriers, Structured Thinking, Youth Dialogue. So one of the platforms, Humble Learners, has taken off really well. So people enjoy coming on that WhatsApp group every day. So we're getting to connect with our stakeholders, right? Or we have a WhatsApp group called Young Researchers Club for Parents. We share very interesting articles on that WhatsApp group. So parents are finding it useful that they get important perspectives which they should be aware of as parents. And the fact that many of them are there on that WhatsApp group for 2 years without leaving it, even during COVID time when a lot of people are leaving WhatsApp groups, talks that they probably care about the WhatsApp group, right? So thought leadership for me is about making your audience care. And the best way to make your audience care is to empower your audience. See, one way is you give somebody a fish. Another way is you teach somebody how to catch a fish. So you go teach them about something. Like for example, we engage, Deep Thought as an organization engages in thought leadership by something called Mother School. So what do we do? What do we do in Mother School? We teach mothers what it means to learn something in a constructivist mode. Now, all the while teaching was like somebody tells you something and you just listen. But you see, right now, even now, am I telling something to you directly? Or do I question you and let you construct that idea as though you were the first one to discover it? I didn't completely do it in a constructivist mode, but if you come to my classroom, I probably do it a little more constructivist, right? So what we do in Mother School is we pick a topic and we teach them just like how we teach students. They know place values already. But when they're taught place values in a deep thought way, they understand what it means to discover things while learning. As Noam Chomsky says, it is not about what you cover in the class, but it's about what you discover. It's not about what you cover, but it's about what you discover. So when mothers realize that, they become our ambassadors. Now in our deep thought, see, you know what is the mission of deep thought? When you talk of thought leadership, I think thought leadership is one of the silver bullets of deep thought, because our mission of deep thought is to nurture thought leaders out of children. To make every child a thought leader is the mission of Deep Thought. To nurture thought leaders out of children by how? By exposing them to philosophy. Why would you want to expose them to philosophy? So they can extrapolate out of textual contents. They come out of the textual content, and how do they come out of textual contents? To engage in interdisciplinary, cross-functional, real-life problem solving. They come out of the boundaries of a subject, interdisciplinary. They don't say, hey, I'm a marketing person, I'm a sales person, I'm an admin person, I'm a legal person, I'm a technical person, I'm a musician, and all of that. Cross-functional, real-life problem solving. It's a very carefully worded mission statement. To nurture thought leaders out of children by exposing them to philosophy so they could extrapolate out of textual contents into interdisciplinary, cross-functional, real-life problem solving. So now our question is, why should every child become a thought leader? For me, there are 3 reasons over why everyone should. Forget about a child. You should ask me, why should I become a thought leader? Why should I listen to all your gyan? I'm saying you should listen to me because you will become a thought leader. Now you should ask me, why should I become a thought leader? Like at least Vidya will ask me. Vidya will tell me, ki, no, I don't want to become thought leader. I just want to teach children. That's it. So I will have to give an answer. Ki, why should I be a thought leader? For me, 3 reasons. I'm sure they'll still not convince a few of you, but let me state them anyway. So reason number 1 is you don't approach people for opportunities. People come to you. You're not like Indra. You are like Vishnu. Indra goes and approaches people and gets caught in troubles and sharp and all of that. But Vishnu, people come to him. Right? So thought leadership is when opportunities come to you rather than you going to opportunities. Right? So for example, when as Deep Thought, when I write a lot of articles on LinkedIn about education, and I keep sharing my articles with school principals and school owners across India. So when they really need something, they come and ask me, Tarun, we're working on this problem. Do you think you can help us? Because they believe that, okay, this is the person who's got the thought process to deal with this problem. So when your opinion matters, your audience come to you when they need help. So no matter what you're doing in your career, if you want growth in your career, thought leadership becomes important because opportunities come to you. If there's somebody here who says, I don't want opportunities, well, then that's okay. I'm not debating with you. No, I'm not being sarcastic. No, I'm not demeaning you. No, I'm not being condescending. Trust me when I say this. But I'm saying if someone says, I want opportunities, then yeah, thought leadership is relevant to you. But if you're in a blissful state where you do not want opportunities, well, yeah, may Buddha bless you. But if you do not have opportunities, then thought leadership is an instrument which you probably require. Now, the second reason for thought leadership is that when you actually approach people, yeah, I mean, ideally you would want a scenario where you don't have to approach people, but that is a very romantic Sanjay Leela Bhansali storyline that doesn't really happen in life, that you do have to approach people. So when you approach people, you have credibility because of your thought leadership. When you go and tell a person that, hey, I wish to do this, people take you seriously because of thought leadership. So first thing is at the first level, it solves the problem by you not having to approach people, people come to you. The second level is even if you do have to go and approach a person, you already have the credibility behind you. And the third and the most amazing thing about thought leadership is you make your consumers your brand ambassadors. So whoever your consumers are, they talk about you. Now let us say I have happy customers. If I have happy customers, my happy customers need not be my brand ambassadors. They will say Deep Thought is very interesting. They will say in Deep Thought, my child is laughing and listening to classes. But do they know what Deep Thought is? They don't. But if you can empower your audience and if you can educate your audience, then your consumers are not just in a position to believe you, take you, buy you, but they're also in a position to explain who you are. They have an articulation for who you are. They have an articulation for who you are. When they have an articulation of who you are, they will definitely go and tell another 10 people about it. So you become very strong. One, because you don't have to approach people, people come to you. But even if your luck is bad and you do have to approach people, people are listening to you. And the third news and the best news is you're not the only one approaching people. There's some more people who are approaching people on your behalf. So have I made a compelling case for thought leadership? Who wouldn't want this, right? There are some Buddhas who still don't want this. That's okay. The world does need a few Buddhas who renounce life. But yeah, but for those who are in search of opportunities, thought leadership is important. Now, how have I, as an individual, been engaging in thought leadership? 11,500 followers on LinkedIn, WhatsApp me around 100 WhatsApp groups. I'm active and I keep sharing my blogs over there, and Facebook about 5,000 followers, right? Instagram just started, not very active there. Don't find it very interesting. It's all about photos. So content ka koi value nahi hai udhar. So LinkedIn is where I enjoy, because LinkedIn is completely content oriented platform. Facebook I enjoy because Facebook is largely sarcasm oriented platform. So these two platforms go quite fine. So I'm still exploring Twitter, but if somebody is really good with Twitter, I'm happy to have discussions with you to understand how to leverage Twitter. But so far I've not been able to use Twitter much. But what I wish to tell through this workshop is using social media and using communication tools to engage in thought leadership becomes very important in 21st century, especially if you're interested in opportunities, right? Now this is, I mean, I'm not talking much about deep thought, what you're supposed to do in deep thought and all. The purpose of this workshop is just to define what is thought leadership and what is its relevance to marketing, education, and what was the other thing? Storytelling. Yeah. Thought leadership is linked with storytelling in the sense that when you try to bring in that universality, storytelling tends to, come in. It is linked to education in the sense that you're trying to get kids to look at transferability of knowledge, right? So you look at education as thought leadership in the sense that you look at whatever pieces you learn in school with a sense that I want this knowledge to be transferable, right? And it has a connection with marketing in the sense that when you've got that wow factor and you're empowering, when people have benefited from you, not only do you get the buy-in, but they also refer you to so many other people. Not only do they refer you to so many other people, but they do half the sale. They've not only referred you, but they've also educated your consumers about who you are. So you just have to go and discuss your commercials and close the deal and come back. Usually what happens is this phenomena, you see this phenomena only when you deal with the alphas. In the society, you have a few alphas, influencers. So you get the influencers get you the others. But I think if you can engage in thought leadership, it is not just the alphas, but even normal people can influence things for you, because you've educated and empowered your audience. This to me is the concept of thought leadership. So thought leadership is not just a feel-good factor wala topic, but it is a subject to be learned. It's an art to be practiced and mastered, because when you can practice and master this, you can get the world behind you. And when you can get the world behind you, your opinion matters and opportunities come to you. So can someone articulate what you managed to gather from the session? And yeah, before you go in, one small thing is, as Sonia said right at the beginning, it is very important that your thought leadership pieces are relevant. Because if your thought leadership pieces are not relevant, people may not care. So what you can do is you can initially start with the pieces which are relevant. And gradually you can go into pieces which are not relevant because there's a buy-in already. They trust you, so they'll still read it because they trust you. But initially you may want to start with something which they want. Like let's say you're a fruit juice shop and somebody likes strawberry, initially sell them strawberry. When they like your shop, then you can sell them chocolate or something else. But you start with something which your audience currently cares for. Right? So that's one very important aspect of thought leadership. And the other thing is, you wouldn't want your thought leadership to sort of, thought leadership is usually very focused. If you're talking a lot of things which are not relevant to what you're, as an organization, what you're standing for, people may get confused. Thought leadership may just fall flat. People identify you to be somebody. So if you're focused and you're consistently talking the same thing, one day I come and talk physics and go away. Next day I come and talk something and go away. It appears like I'm talking 10 different things. Audience can't relate. But if you say, no, I'm only talking of research-based learning. Today physics is example, but it's research-based learning. I drill research-based learning. I say research-based learning, research-based learning, research-based learning, research-based learning. People remember, okay, वो research वाला भैया है, ठीक है, बस. So it's important for thought leadership pieces to be focused. It's very important for thought leadership pieces to be focused because thought leadership pieces create an identity for you. But if the identity is not focused, people may get confused and the whole thought leadership aspect falls apart. People remember you, but people do not know how to articulate who you are. Or he does a lot of interesting things. They can't tell what you do because you've given them so many different pieces which are not focused. So these are two little things. It has to be relevant and it has to be focused. Focused as in you need to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve through this? What is the objective of my thought leadership? If it's addressing my objective, it is focused. So I need to be relevant and I also need to be focused. So if I'm able to engage in thought leadership which is relevant and focused, then I believe we'll be able to make an impact. Yeah. So can someone go in? What are your takeaways from the session?
Hi. So I'd like to do that. So I understood that thought leader is a go-to person, like a person that would solve your problems. But then again, you said that thought leader is a person whose opinions are valued. And to become that, a person should indulge in thought leadership. So for our opinions to matter, we need to become a thought leader, and we do that by indulging in thought leadership. Also, you mentioned that about a paradox of thought leadership, where you said that it's the idea that matters, and that idea can be applied to any field, be it marketing, be it education, be it storytelling, or whatever. And uh, lastly, I understood that we need to make our audience care in order for them to understand what we are trying to say. And of course, there's this whole changing this world wala thing that interested me a lot about the thought leadership. Like why I should become a thought leader, it is because I want to change the world, or maybe just want to change myself, become a better person, become a better learner actually. Because right now I feel like I've condensed myself to this small field of medicine, and I don't think that that should be the case. So yeah, my takeaways are that
Yeah.
thought leadership is how I make my opinions matter. Thought leadership is how I create a better world.
Yeah. Thanks, Preshi. Who's going in next?
Sir, can I?
Yeah, please, Karthik. Yeah, Karthik, go ahead.
Sir, when I saw the topic, I have any idea about this prior to this session. I did not hear of this word, but I have thought I have came through the importance of something like this before, and through this session I understood the actual importance and how to um, approach thought leadership. Uh, Thought leadership is something which makes others understand you in their own way. Suppose you want to explain something which is in your knowledge radius, and the person who is listening to you, he is not in the radius, but to make the person understand, you have to go into his radius and explain him, so that it will make a difference, not simply whatever you saw, whatever you speak, it doesn't matter much, but when you go into the domain of that person and you explain it in his way, that time it makes a difference. And I understood the importance of that. And uh, first I thought that I would not I because I did not know about this, I thought I would simply hear and take some insights. But after that, while I was hearing, and I realized how much important it is to what I want to do. So that's it, sir.
Who's going next?
Shairi, you can go in.
So Preshi already mentioned most of the points. The couple that she left out, one uh, through thought leadership, establishing connectedness through universal tropes and transferability of those tropes. That's one. Second is to deliver focused, relevant content is one of the is very important for thought leadership. And three, to create a difference between thought leadership and entertainment is the former allows for the consumer to be empowered.
Thanks, Shairi. Sonia, what do you want to go in now?
My key takeaways through the session were first that any audience would engage or listen to me because I have to make them care and not believe in the thing. They actually basically care about the things that I'm saying is when they will engage with me. Second thing that I got out of this is you need to have a universal appeal about the initial stage of the conversation. Only then they will flow along with you and understand your perspectives. If I am understanding a new subject, I need to learn how to transfer it into examples. So, transferability is also important. Um, and to create an opinion that the audience would care for, I need to adapt the tools that are necessary to develop thought leadership. And the last thing that I understood is I need to question myself, why should I become a thought leader? Which again is because the audience should care about your opinions. And secondly, about articulating my opinions and being focused on the content that I am delivering. So these are my key takeaways from the session.
Vidya?
Yeah, Tarun.
What were your takeaways from the session?
Firstly, my internet was fluctuating a lot. It was going unstable. So, yeah, but I mean, I think I gather when you say, why thought leadership is essential for us to be, for us as individuals and to be, useful for the society, I think. Like the thing Jim Collins says that when you have to be useful, do something useful. So I think it's
Purva?
Yeah, Tarun.
What were your takeaways?
Yeah. So, um, uh, so when you basically, yeah, so thought leadership, as you said, is a go-to person, but then uh, it's not only the person whom you share the problems with, but then the person is someone who gives you relevant advices as well as is someone whose opinion you actually care. That is what a thought leadership the thought leader person is. So yeah, here I also said that there are the person should be we should give the thought leaders the aspects of thought leadership are giving the relevant knowledge, transferability of knowledge, um, or making people care. All of these come under thought leadership. Yeah, also, yeah, at the end, that is thought leadership is very focused. You have to be very focused to your concept, or else the people would actually people would actually think that you are blabbering something and wouldn't actually care for what you're saying. And yeah, also the last thing is that thought leadership is empowering your audience. Yeah.
Okay. Krishna Priya?
That's it.
So, yeah, the whole session was, to me, what I observed was that the whole session was around why we need to consider thought leadership. As in, it's high time now that we start considering thought leadership, and so exactly what is thought leadership? Um, is it I mean, it's very thin line to, kind of people perceiving it to be as something else. But then, what exactly is thought leadership is one point which we covered upon, and um, mm, then we kind of discussed as to why we need thought leadership. As in now, since we established that we really need thought leadership, how can we ourselves become uh, try to become one among them, and what are the aspects that you know we need to look upon when we consider thought leadership, and so on. So basic takeaway here would be that thought leader is not a person who has is not just a person who has enormous knowledge and and is really successful. But then thought leader is that person whom you can approach to be it any scenario, whom you can count on be it in any scenario, who will be able to predict, or will be able to judge our present scenario, and maybe direct us to or help us ourselves direct towards what would be ideal. So that that aspect would be a takeaway for me. Yeah, right, that would be me.
Yeah. So one question I have for all of you is, I mean, or rather one remark, I think, rather than a question. I'll put it as a remark. See, a lot of times we don't pay much attention to the why question. A lot of times we don't pay much attention to the why question, but the why question helps you transfer that wisdom into the how question. When you know the why really well, you handle the how much better. Because now, why thought leadership have given 3 reasons, and none of the reflections actually captured that. And that the why thought leadership thing, yeah, your questions, you can send them in chat, whatever questions you have, because we're just closing this session, but you can send them in chat so I can catch up with you offline and answer the questions. So why thought leadership have given 3 reasons. 1, that opportunities come to you. You don't have to chase opportunities. And 2, that even if you do have to chase an opportunity, you have the credibility. And 3, that it's not just you who's chasing. You see the logical flow. 1, you don't have to chase, but if you have to chase, you have the credibility. And you have to chase, you don't just have the credibility, but you've got brand ambassadors with you. So there's a 3-layer structure of why you do thought leadership. So now when you know that this is your purpose for thought leadership, when you know that this is your purpose for thought leadership, you can leverage thought leadership to the fullest. You can leverage thought leadership to the fullest when you know this purpose really well. That is when you say that I'm engaging in thought leadership, one question to ask is, who are these brand ambassadors I'm creating? And am I really creating those brand ambassadors? And am I leveraging those brand ambassadors? That would be another question I would ask. If I'm really engaging in thought leadership, that's the question I would ask. Like in the case of Deep Thought, we said the mothers are our thought leaders and are our ambassadors, and we're doing that through Mother School, right? And then you ask, okay, I'm establishing credibility through my thought leadership. Then you ask yourself the question, did I really establish that credibility? Right? And then you also ask a question, am I really getting opportunities coming my way? If I'm not getting opportunities coming my way, do I have to change something in my thought leadership to make sure that the opportunities come my way? So a gentle remark, not in context of today's session, but a universal learnability principle, if I may call it so, is that when we learn a why, it's very important to go deep into the why and to see the connection between the why and the how. to see the connection between the why and the how. That when you see the why, I mean, a lot of times your textbooks give you reasons. Why do we do this? They give you reasons. We sincerely learn it like bullet points and reproduce it like bullet points and conveniently leave them after the exam is done. A lot of whys. And we say that our textbooks are not useful in real life. They are. The problem is with us, not with the textbook. That the textbook knowledge can be transferable, but the question that they are transferable when we approach the textbook in a certain way. So when we see the why, paying attention to each and every answer of the why and seeing how it influences the how, that it's giving me credibility. So how am I going to use that credibility? It is giving me opportunities. How am I going to tap into this potential of it to give me opportunities? It is giving me brand ambassadors. How can I tap into these brand ambassadors? When I explore each of them, then probably I understand thought leadership and probably I can leverage thought leadership better. So that's a gentle remark which I would like to make at the end, that when we learn anything, not just thought leadership, when we learn anything, it's important to pay attention to the why and then spend some time thinking about how the why influences the how. Because as Simon Sinek says, the world's normal organizations, their employees only know the answer to the what questions. And average companies, employees know answers to what questions and how questions. How as in processes. What as in what am I supposed to do? How as in, okay, whatever I'm supposed to do, how do I do it? But in the most innovative and the best organizations in the world, the employees know answers to the why questions. Why am I doing whatever I'm doing? The purpose. That everybody in the organization is united by the purpose. So now forget about an organization. We are internally, we as an individual are an organization. You have a lot of knowledge, you have a lot of capabilities within you. So you are an organization which is a sum total of all your capabilities. So when you as an individual are an organization and when you as an individual have to do well, it's important for you to, handle your why, what, how matrix really well. When I say handle your why, what, how matrix, one is to know all three of them. And two is to study the interlinkage between each of them. The interlinkage between the what and how, what and why, and so on. So that profiling, that internal profiling of knowledge becomes very important. I hope you understand what I mean by internal profiling. Whatever you have, you store them in a certain way and you see the links in a certain way. That may not be immediately useful, but it gives you so much of clarity, and the way you look at problems, there'll be a change in how you approach life, not just your work, not just your education, but in the way you approach life. Any tough situations or anything in life, you'll approach it better when you're able to profile all the knowledge in your life in this matrix, right? So that's pretty much